Welcome to the Garden City in western Montana, USDA Zone 5B. Welcome to the garden. As you can see, this is more of a squash plot now, at least in this corner. So right here we have a crookneck squash, which only has one fruiting body, but over here we have a zucchini plant that has just erupted with fruit, and with my call schedule I haven't been out here as much as I would like, and so let's pick some of the zucchini. We got one. A couple smaller ones. It's not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. But as you can see, we have the crookneck squash, the zucchini plant, and then this big patch is actually just a single pumpkin plant that is really kind of taken over. So here's one of the pumpkins, if you can see that, and I'll show you a few more of them, but there's at least probably 4 or 5 decent sized pumpkins over here. And on this side of me there's actually another pumpkin plant. This plant I did specifically for the pepitas. It's a pumpkin variety that's well known for having delicious pepitas, and so as you can see there's quite a bit of squash taking over this part of the garden. Over here we have the Three Sisters, and so we have sweet corn, we have some bean plants, so some beans over here and over here, and we also have our squash. So here's one of the pumpkins along the side, and actually some red curry squash right over here. And so what are the Three Sisters and why are they important? So in Native American history, these 3 types of plants were planted together, and the reason why is because they all kind of symbiotically benefited each other. And so, for instance, with the tall corn stalks, the beans could climb up the corn stalks, and then the beans are nitrogen fixators, and so they take nitrogen from the air and put it back in the soil, and so that's good for all the plants. And then where do the squash kind of play in? Well, as you can see with the invasiveness of the squash, it actually kind of protects the ground from weed formation, and also helps keep the moisture in the ground just by blocking all the sunlight. And so this is my my experiment with the Three Sisters. So I have 2 plants right here, and what I thought were watermelon plants, and so somewhere along the line we had a little bit of a seed confusion because my beautiful watermelons turned out to be big beautiful zucchinis. And so so that means that we have 3 zucchini plants, which is way more than enough for our family. And so let's pick some of this zucchini. think there's one more maybe. All right. So that's our haul for the day. All right, so welcome back to the garden. Now it's a little bit later in the season. Unfortunately, it's about time for most of the garden to just kind of die out and disappear, but we still have a winter squash, and so we'll be picking these soon. But these are the red curry squash. I actually already picked one and made a really nice dish out of it, and so they're beautiful, about ready to go. So whenever we come up with a meal, we'll come get these squash. Let's go look at some of the other things that we have. Okay, here are some of the pumpkins we were looking at earlier in the year, and now they're all ready. Now notice with these pumpkins that they don't really have that typical orange color that you think about with pumpkins. That's because these are pepita pumpkins, and so I grew these specifically for the seeds, which are a little bit different. They don't have the hull or the husk that the other pumpkins do, and so these are the kind of the green pepita seeds that you see more often in the store. And so that's why I decided to grow this variety, and that's why they look a little bit different than other pumpkins that we see. Here's also some of my onions. I just kind of flattened out the tops. We'll give them a few days like that, and then we'll be ready to start drying out so that we can store them over the winter. Even though these are summer squash, they kind of made a bit of a resurgence in the fall, and so I'm now seeing a lot more fruiting bodies, and so we'll give them a little more time. But even some of these are probably getting close to being able to pick. But it was a little bit of a pleasant surprise to see them picking up later in this season. Again, even though these are more considered a summer variety, we're still picking zucchini just about every day. There's several in here that are ready to pick or close to being ready to pick, and we've been eating zucchini in just about everything. And so far it doesn't seem like things are going to slow down that much, although we did have some cold weather, and that's why the garden looks so rough. All the greens and such took a bit of a dive, but the fruiting bodies seem to be doing okay so far, so we'll just keep a close eye on them and keep picking. All right, and so here are some of our more typical pumpkins that we typically think about. So these are some jack-o'-lantern pumpkins, still on the vine. We'll give them a little bit more time because I'm hoping that they'll be good for the girls to come out and pick for Halloween, and we're still fairly early September, and so we'll just give them a little more time on the vine, and hopefully they get maybe a little bit bigger. Although for my girls, these are definitely big enough, and so these have been really fun to grow and watch turn orange and beautiful, and so I'm excited for them to come out and choose their pumpkins.